Today, we're diving into drug trafficking in Venezuela. But listen, this isn't your typical cops and robbers story. We're going to explore how in Venezuela, the state itself has become the biggest cartel of all. So here's the big puzzle that we're going to tackle. You'd think, right, that a change in leadership could fix a country's big problems. But in Venezuela, the drug trafficking network seems built to outlast any one person. It's a system designed for survival. So the real question is, how on earth does it actually work? All right, to get our heads around this, we need to talk about the main player in this whole thing, the cartel of the Suns. But when you hear that word cartel, I want you to just toss out any image you have of guys like Pablo Escobar. This is something else entirely. See, the cartel of the Suns isn't some outside group fighting the government. In a lot of ways, it is the government. It's this loose, informal network of really powerful people. We're talking generals, politicians, intelligence officers, and they use their official positions and all the state's resources, like military planes and ports, to move massive amounts of drugs. So let's just break down what this really means. First, it's institutionalized. Corruption isn't a bug in the system, it's a core feature. Second, these aren't low-level grunts. We're talking about the people at the very top. Third, they're using the state's own tools, its planes, its ships, its ports, to run their illegal business. And finally, and this is absolutely key, it's a decentralized network. There's no single head of the snake to cut off, which makes it unbelievably resilient. Okay, so this all leads to a really critical question. Why? Why would a government get so deeply involved in organized crime? Well, it turns out there's a kind of twisted logic to it, a logic that serves two very important purposes for the regime. It's really a vicious cycle. On one hand, you have just pure economic desperation. I mean, with hyperinflation, official salaries are practically worthless, so illicit money becomes a way to survive. But, and here's the really crucial part, that money is then used for political control. The regime uses the profits to buy the loyalty of the military and the political elite, which is how they stay in power. It's a system that just fuels itself. Just stop and think about what that means for a second. The line between government and organized crime hasn't just been blurred, it's been completely erased. In this kind of system, drug trafficking isn't something the state fights, it's a core function that the state manages. Of course, this whole thing doesn't exist in a bubble. There are some really powerful external forces at play, some that are actually feeding this criminal enterprise, and some that are trying to fight it. So you've got two major factors just pouring fuel on this fire. First, neighboring Colombia is producing cocaine at record levels, and all that product needs a way to get to market. Well, Venezuela is perfectly positioned for that. And second, you have armed rebel groups like Colombia's ELN, who operate on both sides of the border and work directly with these corrupt Venezuelan officials. So what happens when someone tries to push back? When the U.S. cranked up naval pressure in the Caribbean, did it stop the trade? Nope, not at all. The network just adapted. They quickly shifted routes over land and through different sea lanes. It's like squeezing a balloon. The problem doesn't go away, it just moves somewhere else. You know, when you put all these pieces together, it starts to paint a very bleak picture. When crime is this deeply embedded in the very fabric of the state, it raises the terrifying possibility that this system, it might actually be unbreakable, at least with the tools we're using right now. Ultimately, this all boils down to one single fundamental problem, a total lack of accountability. This kind of state-level corruption can only thrive when there's no independent judiciary, no free press, and no real political opposition to act as a check on power. You know, this quote from the Insight crime investigation that our whole explainer is based on, it really says it all. As long as the system rewards corruption and uses it as the glue to hold power together, the drug trade won't just continue, it's probably going to grow. The incentives are just too powerful. And that leaves us with this final, really difficult question. This isn't about arresting a few bad apples. It's about confronting a system that has made organized crime an essential part of its own survival. So how do you reform a state that literally profits from its own decay? That's a paradox with no easy answers, and it's the core of the challenge in Venezuela today.